In this video we take a 24-hour trip all the way to Northumberland to try and find one of the rarest birds ever seen in the UK.
With a free 24 hours on the last Saturday before Christmas, we thought what better thing to do than a trip to Northumberland.
Hey folks, we're back in the van and looking a bit horror movie with the lights because the lights are down there. We had nowhere to put them. Anyway, we're in Northumberland. We've driven all the way from North Wales to Northumberland for a day, for tomorrow, to try and get the super rare grey-headed lapwing that's been hanging around here for a while. I'm a little bit, I don't know how certain I am we'll find it, as it's been a bit sporadic as far as how often it's been seen. And on top of that, it's due to be a windy day tomorrow.
I'll give it.
But we're going to give it a go. We like a challenge. So, see you in the morning. Morning. It's kind of first light and we're at East Chevington Nature Reserve with some kind of hope that we might find a grey-headed lapwing, which is like super rare. It looks like it's a returning bird from earlier in the year, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first UK record. So let's go and try and find it.
We've only got a day to do it.
We've only got today. We've come all the way to Northumberland just for today. So stick with us, let's see what we can find. There's about there's 3 or 4 places it could be. So we're going to the place it was seen yesterday morning, hoping for the best, so stick with us.
Our first port of call was the field the bird was seen the previous day. When we arrived, there were a couple of other birders there, but no sign of the grey-headed lapwing yet. Although it wasn't completely light yet, and the previous day it showed up about 9:30. So although there was a bitterly cold wind coming through, we stuck around for a while, watching the skies, hoping for this mega rare lapwing to fly in like it did the previous day. And despite the wind really picking up, there were some birds in the air. There were a few gulls and a number of curlew flying in. We even saw a heron passing through. In front of us in the field, the only thing that was feeding was a carrion crow. After about an hour or so, one of the other birders who'd moved on ran back and said he'd spotted the lapwing in flight. So we all rushed to where he'd seen it, arriving at a farm gate overlooking some fields.
Hey folks, well that was a bit of excitement. One of the other birders came to grab us saying he's seen it in a flock of lapwings. So we got to where he'd seen it, but the flock of lapwings had flown really far in the distance and were kind of out of sight. So we didn't get to see it. So we're heading now towards a ploughed field where the bird had been seen a couple of days previous, hoping it might return.
I think it was lifted from there, don't they?
Yeah, they do think it might have lifted from the ploughed field. So we're heading there now. Stick with us.
We wandered down the lane towards the ploughed field, where our bird is presumed to have taken off from. Now I better tell you how rare this bird is. It's really rare. This is probably the only individual of this species ever seen in the UK, and was first spotted in May 2023 in Northumberland. It then did a bit of a tour of Scotland and disappeared. This bird is believed to be the same bird returning, so a pretty important individual. This species breed in northeast China and Japan, so well out of their range. Anyway, back to our search, and we had some good news.
Hey folks, so we're on a mad rush now, hot-footing it, about 25 minutes walk down the path, because apparently the grey-headed lapwing's been seen a bit further down at Druridge Pools. So we're deciding whether to drive or walk, but we've got to walk then back to the van and to drive, so we might as well just carry on walking. So we just are really hoping it remains where it is now.
See the lapwings if they do come back over though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Stick with us. This is a bit of an exciting and terrifying one.
We walked briskly down the lane, spotting a few birds on the way, but not stopping for any length of time, fearing we might miss our target species. When we got closer to where it had been sighted, we spotted a lot of birds in the air. These were lapwings, and as our grey-headed lapwing was hanging around with these, We presumed maybe the flock had been spooked and our grey-headed lapwing was amongst them. So even though these birds were at quite a distance, we tried to scan through them. But it was really difficult, with the flock splitting up into 3 or 4 smaller flocks, moving higher and lower and in different directions, and the birds generally being silhouetted against the sky. So we proceeded on to a hide where the bird is thought to have landed nearby. When we arrived, there were loads of birders coming out, saying the bird had flown back in the direction that we'd came. Getting a little frustrated at this point, we headed back in the direction we came from, passing en route a large flock of goldfinch that were feeding. We walked further down the path, kind of losing hope that we might see this bird today. We did stop for a moment as there was a reed bunting feeding on the path. Past the reed bunting we did see a couple of shapes in the field, and on inspection these were pink-footed geese. When we passed the geese we came to the ploughed field that we were looking for originally, and stopped with another couple of birders to give it a scan. It was about this time I discovered something pretty exciting.
Hey folks, so we did see it, but at a ridiculous distance. It was amongst the flocks of lapwing that took off as we were walking towards Drury Pools.
But we did see it.
We did see it. Well, I didn't realise until I was on the way back, and I just thought I'd check out the video. And one of the birds at the bottom of the video was a little bit different, and that was it. I've zoomed in on it. It's blurred, but it's it. So we've got it, and that's a lifer. And that's a magger as well.
We've just got to try and find it again to get better footage.
Yeah, we've got to try and get you some footage so you can actually see what it looks like, rather than us seeing a dot in the distance. So stick with us. We have kind of given this a bit more time than normal, so let's persevere.
Absolutely over the moon that we'd seen the grey-headed lapwing, our focus now was to try and get some slightly better footage and better views. So we headed to a couple of other places the bird's been seen in the past. One of them was a large pool on East Chevington Nature Reserve. En route we passed some grey-lag goose in the field and had one more look in the original field we started at. Here there were a large group of curlew feeding amongst the grass. We watched them for a short while, but then headed down the lane towards a hide which overlooked the pool. Although on our initial scan there weren't any lapwings at all, there was plenty of life there. Almost immediately spotting a duck that we don't see too often, which is the goldeneye. And pretty soon the goldeneye was joined by another handsome duck, this time a male goosander, both of them frequently diving for food. In the distance there was a large group of widgeon, and closer by a couple of swans that were flying in. But unfortunately no grey-headed lapwing. This bird had disappeared. We did chat for a short while to a local gentleman who talked to us about some of the other wildlife he's seen here. And although it was wonderful watching the goldeneye and other wildfowl here, we did have to move on. But before we decided what to do next, I wanted one last look in that original field. But it was still very quiet. The curlews had left, and the only bird feeding on the ground was a moorhen. In the distance I did see a hunting marsh harrier over the reed bed, but as it was getting well into the afternoon, the views we had of the grey-headed lapwing had to suffice.
He's just seen a water pipit come up on bird guides.
Yes, I've just seen a water pipit come up on bird guide, so I thought we'll have a break from trying to re-find our mega rare grey-headed lapwing and go and try and hit this nemesis bird that's just eluded me every single time so far this year. So it'd be nice to get.
But we'll give it a go.
We probably won't see it, but we're going to give it a go. It's only about half an hour away.
As this water pipit sighting was only about 35 minutes away from where we were, and this species was becoming quite the adversary, I had to go and try and find it. The only problem was, when we arrived, it was really windy.
Hey folks, we're at the water pipit spot, and it's very, very windy. No water pipit yet, but we're going to continue looking. Kaylee's around somewhere. Oh, there she is.
Despite no immediate sighting of the water pipit, I was still quite hopeful, and whilst I was looking for the water pipit, I could scan through some of the other birds on the beach, and there were plenty. There was a number of waders feeding amongst the rocks. A good number of them were redshank, but the one bird we didn't expect to see, and we're happy we did, was one of Kaylee's favourite wading birds, the purple sandpiper. There only appeared to be one of this species here, but we watched it for a short while. Feeding alongside the purple sandpiper, there was some turnstone. These were very actively feeding amongst the rocks. There was also, underneath my nose, a pied wagtail. By now the wind had really picked up and we hadn't seen the water pipit again. So we had one last walk down the promenade, picking out one last species en route, which was the sanderling. A couple of these birds were quite high up the beach feeding among the rocks, but there were a few on the water's edge pecking around in the sand, with one dunlin amongst them too. By this time it had become really windy, so we decided to head back towards the van, seeing this large flock of waders on the way. As we got nearer the van, we had a bird fly over us calling, eventually landing in a field out of sight. Guess what that was?
Hey folks, the water pipits had one over on me again. We did actually see it. It flew over our heads and called.
Yeah.
That's how we identified it. But then landed in a field.
Yeah, it's in the field behind us, sheltering from this wind, which is terrible.
It's absolutely blowing a gale out there. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
So, although we have seen it, we can't count it. So it's kind of twisted its knife again in my back. Nevertheless, we have seen a few other things here, quite a few waders, including a purple sandpiper, which is lovely to see. And we've had a successful day, really. Even though we didn't get brilliant footage of the very rare grey-headed lapwing, we did get something.
We did see it, though.
And we did see it at a distance, which is what we came for. So that's super, and we can add that onto our year list and our life list, which is excellent. So thanks so much for watching. Please like,
Please subscribe,
and please press the notification bell. And look out for our next video, which is a Christmas special, which is kind of a compilation of all the rarest and coolest birds we've seen this year. So look out for that. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye bye.